Hi, it's Tony Chapman. Every so often in Chatter That Matters, I go off format. I go off script. Not to chase a headline, not to echo whatever talking points are trending, but to share what I honestly believe matters most to Canadians and to Canada. This isn't a political diatribe. This isn't spin spun by the people who control the narrative. This is the kind of conversation I'd have with you over a cup of coffee, the kind where at times we lower our voice because we're telling the truth. And I hope you stick around because I don't want to just share my concerns. I want to share 5 ideas on how to fix them. First, let's talk about the K economy and why the K economy is not okay. Here's what a K economy is in plain language. In a healthy economy, we rise together, not at the same speed, but in the same direction. In a K-shaped economy, when we're living in Canada, we split apart. The top arm of the K, well, they own the assets and their wealth compounds, real estate, equities, and experiences. As they say, the rich get richer. And to them, nuisances are basically nuances. With the rolling eyes and exclamation points, they talk about the price of grapes or a ribeye steak. Out-of-control taxes spawn out-of-the-country conversations. But it really ends there. The bottom arm of the K, well, that compounds too, but in a very different way. Rent compounds, interest compounds, debt compounds. The people here consume stress as they fall further behind. And what we're not saying loudly enough is that more Canadians are sliding down, more Canadians are hitting bottom, and our country starts to feel like 2 different realities living on the same street. Over there's a mansion, and over there is a tent. Now stay with me because I want to move fast from what's happening to what we can do about it. But first, I want you to take this personally. Let's imagine that we're living at the bottom of the K and what it's like to live there. 10 million people in Canada, over 1/4 of our population, today live with food insecurity. The numbers get worse when you realize that 1 in 3 children exist within that reality. And even worse, in lone parent families run by the female, over half are food insecure. This is about real hunger, real skip meals, not just tight budgeting. It's not a statistic. That's a parent pretending they already ate. That's your kid who cannot concentrate at school. A household where every grocery trip feels like a moral injury, and every trip to the food bank feels like a walk of shame. And you gotta add job uncertainty. Too many Canadians feel the ground shifting under them. High youth unemployment, layoffs, technology that can replace them. And those that work, many are seeing hours get cut or more demanded from them. Wages are staying stagnant, and the gig economy becomes the default. One job piled on top of the other. Here people might work, but they still cannot breathe. And when you live like that long enough, it changes you. It changes how you sleep, how you parent, how you show up at work. It changes how you see the future. And that's where the K economy starts spilling into everything else we're seeing. Mental health takes a hit. Chronic financial stress is not a bad day, it's a constant state. Anxiety becomes normal, depression becomes quiet, burnout becomes the badge. And when you start seeing the downstream effects, the things we argue about as separate issues are often symptoms of the same reality. More people self-medicating, more substance abuse, not because people are weak, because stress is relentless and coping is human. You see more crime, not just organized crime, but desperate crime, opportunistic crime, the kind that make communities feel less safe and more suspicious of each other. You see more people become vulnerable to cyber scams that promise hope. And you see something else that should make us pause. This growing reliance on Hail Marys. When the ladder feels broken, people start looking for trapdoors in the sky, and they're seduced by a constant stream of advertising to buy lottery tickets, not for fun, but for hope. Or sports gambling, not as entertainment, but of some kind of fantasy of control, a belief that if you just pick the right game, they can catch up, they can breathe, they can win back what life has taken. They chase a miracle because the plan feels out of reach. That's what the bottom arm of the K does to a country. It doesn't just drain wallets, it drains belief. While all of that is happening, the top arm keeps climbing because assets compound. And that's what makes the K economy so dangerous. It's not just unfair, it's unstable, it splits trust, it turns neighbors into strangers. It creates a quiet resentment that eventually becomes a loud one. So let's talk about some real priorities. First of all, compassion matters and support programs matter. People need help, and we have to be there for them. But when compassion without a plan shows up, to me it's a band-aid on a festering and growing wound. If we keep treating symptoms with borrowed money on the backs of future generations, we will lock the K economy as our new normal. So let me lay out what renewal looks like, and I'm going to focus on 5 pillars, 5 priorities, a national to-do list that turns compassion into a plan. Pillar 1, build an affordability floor that is structural, not seasonal. Relief checks, GST rebates are like a floating bridge that never takes you to the other side. Structural affordability means attacking the cost drivers, the housing supply. We need more competition, more productivity, more wage growth. It means measuring outcomes in public, not announcing programs and hoping for applause. Cutting the fat and cutting the taxes that all fuel inflation and higher prices. The simplest scoreboard is this: food insecurity must go down year over year. If it doesn't, we're not fixing the machine. We're just putting meals on the table paid by future generations. Second pillar, rebuild the middle by making entrepreneurship a ladder again. K economy hardens when the middle can't climb. Entrepreneurship is one of the best ladders we have because it turns ideas into jobs, and jobs into stability, and stability into community and a tax base. Canada, we used to produce 3 entrepreneurs for every 1,000 people. Now it's like 1.2. That's a massive loss. Why? Too much friction, too much complexity. We can't even harmonize what we can do across provinces. And we make dreamers fight a maze before their ideas can even open the door. We also need to provide them fuel, especially early stage capital that keeps Canadian ideas in Canada. And we need to celebrate trying, not just winning. The goal is not a few unicorns. The goal is thousands of builders creating hundreds of thousands of jobs. Third pillar, monetize Canadian genius, not just export Canadian talent. We have some of the best comics and screenwriters and producers and actors, musicians, game developers. But what happens? We monetize their talent outside of Canada. Why can't we create world-class ownership? If we want to narrow the K, we have to invest in industries that create intellectual property because IP compounds on behalf of all of Canada. A great show, a great format, a great music catalog, a great game, a great book series, these become export engines that generate value for decades. Culture is not just an identity, it's an economy if we choose to treat it like one. Let's take $1 billion of the 1.6 that we give to CBC and use that capital to invest in Canadian content. BBC did it in England, and they are a money-making machine. The same can happen in Canada. Pillar 4, move up the value chain. In agriculture, commodities are important, but they're vulnerable and they leave too much money on the table. The opportunity to me is processing, branding, premium positioning. Canada should be known not only for growing food, but for producing the most trusted, high-standard, high-value food that the world covets. Why? Because we have young soil, fresh air, fresh water, superb growing conditions. But we got to move up the value chain, create jobs in plants and logistics, research and development, brand building, export sales. Make rural Canada part of the growth strategy, not an afterthought. And the 5th pillar, invest in infrastructure that compounds Canada's competitiveness. Some projects are shiny, great ribbon cutting, but let's focus on the strategic ones. We want to raise the bottom arm of the K. We need better productivity and better capability. Canada should be one of the great tourism destinations of the world. Learn from Fogo Island, Cabot Trail. Learn from some of the great tourist areas that we've built and understand when we do, they're permanent. They create a circle economy. They bring positive energy and capital. Second, how do we move our goods to the world? That requires better ports, better corridors, modern logistics. We have to make every exporter more competitive and lower the costs that eventually show up in consumer prices. Forget about this high-speed rail between Montreal and Ottawa. Take that money and invest it where we can have recurring revenue happening every time we ship LNG, commodities, rare minerals, and our Canadian-made products around the world. Build what compounds, build what makes every Canadian business stronger. I want to add one more layer because it underpins all 5 and it determines whether any of this sticks. This country needs voter literacy. We need citizens who demand results, not rhetoric. We want accountability and transparency. We want to know where our money is invested and why. And we need to be able to track it like a scoreboard. Is food insecurity declining? Are entrepreneurship rates rising? What's happening with our productivity, our Canadian-owned IP? Are we building more tourist destinations? What's happening in our ports? What are we doing to raise productivity? The answer is no, the policies are not working, even if the press releases are. So let me land on this final thought. The top arm owns assets, the bottom consumes stress, and more people are hitting bottom. That is why the K economy is not okay. But here's the good news, it is fixable. Not with one program, not with one election promise, but with priorities that compound and with citizens who demand measurable outcomes. We can keep managing symptoms with borrowed money on the backs of future generations, or we can rebuild the machine and grow our way forward. I know which Canada I want. Thanks for listening to Chatter That Matters. It's Tony Chapman. Let's chat soon.